Welcome to the October meeting of the Economic Development Council. Steve Langley, Chair. For the audience, we'll go around and do introductions.
Chris Nato, Planning Board.
Andrew Cataract.
Alan Brown, Selectman.
Tim Redmond.
Derek Horn.
Charlie Tentis.
Okay, Derek, you want to approve minutes?
Yeah, the first one we have are the minutes from September 4th. I emailed those out to you yesterday. They've been available on the website. I also have printed copies if anyone would prefer to take a copy with them. I'll just be looking for a motion to either approve or amend.
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstention? Not here.
One abstention.
The next item is, last meeting we talked about Welcome to Goffstown Sign, kind of developed out of the presentation by Michael Bergeron. What you have on the table before you is some examples of some signs in other towns in New Hampshire. I had an opportunity to talk to Matt LeBrake of DOT, and he kind of provided me of what the process is. The town would have to make a request for placing a sign in the town or in the state right-of-way. There could be no advertising on the sign. It would have to be set on breakaway posts, and the town would need to take full responsibility for liability and maintenance. And what I've kind of given you here is just a map of 114 coming in from Bedford of 3 potential locations, and also some examples of what's done in Keene. I picked Ringe because they have Franklin Pierce College, so their sign featured that prominently. And then also Bedford that has theirs at the corner of Meeting House Road and 101, and it provides directions to the municipal offices and town hall as well. So that gives a little bit more information than just the welcome to. And I think some of the considerations would be how fast you're going. For the most part, that's 45 miles an hour through there, but at St. Anselm Drive and Mast Road, you've got the 4-way intersection for traffic control that tends to slow people down a little bit for those controls. So you might be able to put a little bit more information there, whether it's directing to Grassmere, the businesses, county offices, high school, those kind of things, or if you were going to involve St. Anselm College and include that kind of information at that intersection. Just really at this point would look for some feedback from the EDC on a good location, design, what kind of information, so we could get some idea of where it would be installed and get some cost estimates to take to the Board of Selectmen so they could make that request of DOT.
So the requirements that you just said of the DOT, that's it, and we can be within their right-of-way?
You can be within their right-of-way, and then their process is you provide them the design, the size, and you go out and stake out where you want to put it, and then they'll provide feedback of if it needs to be moved, any adjustments need to be made.
Do they give you a dimension from edge of pavement, or?
They did not, no.
Will we need to meet the requirements in the planning documents for our town for dimensions? We do have a dimensional requirement for businesses.
I would say no, you would not be subject to the sign regulations in the zoning ordinance.
And why would you say that?
Because it's it's a municipal use. 2, for the most part, any informational signs, I believe there is a provision for any of the directional signs, whether it be for crotchet mounted, stone bridge, those types of signs that are specifically exempted by the zoning ordinance. And also, the zoning ordinance typically deals with uses on a specific lot. This is not even a use on a lot. This is a sign within the state right-of-way.
Do you think we're likely to exceed the dimensions anyways?
I can't remember what the exact dimensions are.
Pretty good size for, that would be, I mean, if you were going to consider it, it would be like a pylon, right?
And most of the pylons in the commercial industrial flex, you're allowed about 60 square feet.
Yeah, so I don't think we would even have to be concerned about that.
I just want to be sure that what we do, we are aware of what the regulations are for the rest of the people in town.
And I think then that would depend on where you located it, because the zoning does vary along this whole track. And we could pick out I guess, an adjacent lot to see what that zoning is to use as guidance.
I definitely think having a sign at the 114A intersection, Goffstown Village left, Bernardville right, would be a good location. Coming in from Ware into Goffstown would be a good location.
Do you think we have the means to fund multiple signs at once? Or
I was
do we-
thinking.
Yeah, that was the next question.
They're not going to be cheap.
Well, I think my suggestion would be that 114 at the Bedford line is the most traffic. So that seems to me to be a starting point if we were going to start with one sign.
I agree. I think if
Welcome
we
to
only
Goffstown.
get one, the traffic coming from Manchester this way would be by far the best.
I think that's kind of a area where it's kind of an unknown. People don't see the little sign that says Goffstown.
What about moving it up a little bit closer to St. A's, because you're really trapped when you cross that line, there's no other place. You see the sign, but as you get closer to St. A's, you can put a sign in. Welcome to Goffstown, a few of the signs straight ahead, Grassmere Center, or, you've got them captured now between Bedford line and the light, right?
Because there's
There's
limited
nothing
access.
to turn off, right? No access there.
Yeah, I just
Just so you could get it closer to the main turns, you could maybe utilize a sign as having a look at straight ahead as such and such. And I mean, just a thought, that's
Yeah,
all.
my thought is keep it simple and keep it right where Goffstown starts.
Mm-hmm.
Just welcome to Goffstown. I think if you try to put welcome to Goffstown, Bernardville this way, I mean, you need to be at a slower traffic location to do that. Where, like you look at this welcome to Keene, you can't miss that. Right? It's the name of the town.
Yeah, that was only my suggestion, is you came closer to the light, you're slowing down anyway, so the sign would be more, you're whipping by at 50 miles an hour down to Bedford line, or most of the time, but yes, I don't know.
So this Keene one is more like over underneath the power line.
Yeah,
in that general area.
Yeah, the line is before you hit the power line.
Right.
but-
Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would not be in favor of it being down near where the Keene sign is located for two reasons. One, it's going to be dark. It will be accessible to vandals down there on that stretch of road. No one would really see if someone was vandalizing it. If it is at an intersection, traffic is generally stopped at an intersection. Intersections are lighted. I think it would be safer from a vandalism point of view if we did it as that. The downside to the St. A's intersection is the turning lane. If you're going to put it far enough off the road adjacent to the turning lane, it's going to be 30 feet off of the through lanes, and people might not see it.
And people are going to think that's the beginning of Goffstown.
Well, I'm just saying from a vandalism point of view, I think that if it's in a non-lighted area, unless there are street lights down there on that piece of road, and I don't think there are,
No.
I would be afraid of vandalism in a...
That's a good point, because that would keep you, as you're coming to the intersection, there is lighting there. If you could get it into the lighting zone, you'd be,
Maybe
maybe even put a light on.
at the beginning of the turning area, I don't know if it's even lit down there.
It must be lit at some point as you
It
come into
is.
the intersection, right?
I'm just concerned that if it was down under the power lines, that it would be subject to vandalism, because there would be no one paying attention to it as they're zipping by at 50.
That's a good point. I just think that when you have that, if you're going to have a sign that's welcome to your town,
I like it there.
it should be where the...
I like it
town
there from a
is.
logistics point of view. I just would be concerned about vandalism.
What about the possibility of having like a solar light on top of there?
Yep.
And that way it could
Could
be
do
at
something like
the
that.
town line, but then you could have, nice looking lights like the Shepherd Hook light or whatever, that would actually cast light
It
on
should be lit at night. I agree, Chris.
And then
that would be
way
It should be
nice.
illuminated.
it'd help
That would be
deter
nice.
any
Problem is that
vandals
those-
from.
Solar lights are not that effective. in my
I know, I
opinion.
just don't know
I
how
think
else.
it's a good idea.
I don't know how else to light it, if there's any other way to light it, I'm definitely.
The new solar lights coming out with a damn,
They do keep getting better.
yeah, they got the LED lights in them. It's amazing.
You'd almost have to have like, a light with a solar panel, you know,
Oh, yeah.
not just the ones you get at Home Depot. That'd be useless. The
Oh,
thing
right.
would- it
No,
wouldn't
it has
work
to be a
past 1 in the
sign light.
morning.
Industrial.
It'd have to be, more
They
commercial.
do
grade
make
industrial
sign
grade.
lights.
Yeah,
It probably has a battery as part of it, like the stoplights do at Norman Road.
I
right.
guess that would have to be something that we look for and as we research this and try to spec something out.
But I do agree with you. I think at the town line
Andy?
makes more sense.
I think if we're going to have someone look at doing a welcome sign, that we should have that same, have someone also look at doing smaller signs at these other intersections and maybe a theme or a color. You know, I think like Jaffrey has welcome to Jaffrey, but then when you get in, there's littler signs. So I don't know what they call that theme or something, but, you know, we've heard from other people that they would love to see something down at the intersection of 114 and 114A.
Well, I think
Now's the time to do it.
People
If we have,
114 from where is another place. I guess everybody's going to have their preference.
Well-
right? But I think you're going to want to go for most bang for your buck.
right, we were trying to capture.
Yeah, I think it comes down to budget, and it doesn't all have to be done in 1 year. It could be done over consecutive years.
Understood. I agree with that. Tim?
Well, the Ware sign is actually at the intersection of New Boston and Ware's Town Line, just past Riverdale. They have it set off the road, and it's visible.
Yeah, that one looks like it's beyond the right-of-way, right? Is that on
Nah,
private
the
property?
state right-of-way is odd. The state right-of-way owns sometimes 60 feet, 90 feet. Their right-of-ways are all in and out. It's not a continuous right-of-way. I would assume that's in the right-of-way, because I doubt if they would have got permission to put on private property.
Charlie?
One other thing, as we look at this one that says home of Franklin Pierce College, perhaps if we come up with the right ideas to have a second sign at that 114 in St. A's Drive, home of St. Anselm's College, they may be willing to help pay for it.
Get them to pay for it.
Help them pay for it.
We can get them to...
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one other thing, don't forget, you've got the state sign already there, correct? You've got the town line sign, so I mean, you've captured the town line, so if you come ahead a little bit more, you're gonna just capture more of the grasp at the sign as you're slowing down to the intersection. Doesn't have to be actually at the town line, you've got one there now.
I know, but
No, I
I
understand.
actually had to look for that
Yeah.
when we
Right.
started having this discussion, because I'm like, where is the line? And I've only gone by that 10,000
Many
times.
times, just didn't really look for it.
Right.
I'll bet you the difference is only 500,000 or 600,000 feet down through there, Steve. It's
I
not
know,
that
I
far.
agree with that, but, my thought is that we have prime real estate between there and the corner that could be developed.
Mhm.
And if the sign is way up by St. A's Drive, do people think that's Bedford land?
Yeah.
That's one thought.
Or if St. A's helps pay for it, you get two.
Well, I think that more than one is great. Funding is,
But so don't forget, you might have to deal with the DOT on a double sign setup too.
right, yeah, that's another thing. Is DOT going to be as
Well, yeah,
favorable
well-
to multiple locations? Do they have any?
That I didn't ask. I asked them basically what the process was, what they normally get.
I guess that would be a question to see if they're less favorable if you say we want 3 of them between here and 114A.
You're putting a sign at your own risk. In all cases, anything in the public right-of-way, you
I
put at your own
understand
risk.
that.
So
I just
if-
don't know.
I doubt if the state
They
would
have to
have it.
approve it though, right?
Yeah, they're pretty easy going.
So how do you want to move forward on this? Where do you want to go next?
I like the town line with a request for a solar lighting system.
I would agree with that. Is this a consensus? that-
Yeah. And if you get a secondary one and someone approaches St. A's to talk to them with a schematic,
So Derek, you'll ask the question if they're less favorable to more than one?
Yeah, I can ask that. I think before moving forward with proposing a St. A's, I would want to meet with somebody over there to see
definitely.
if they were favorable,
Oh,
because
you need their
they,
buy-in.
they,
I know exactly what you're going to say.
yeah,
They think they're Manchester.
they identify,
I'd love to see it.
identify as a college in Manchester, so
Right.
they may not look favorable on,
Yeah, every time you see the political news,
Right.
St. Ames College,
I think it's even more reason to see if we can.
03102.
Absolutely.
But when you get a quote, because I think that's the next step, I would have them give you quotes on the possibility of what they would recommend for
Yep.
smaller sub-signs.
Yeah.
And get that all at one time, so we don't have to go back.
yeah, and I can also talk to them about not just these, but also coming in from where.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something.
What's the look?
And I think in terms of look, we've had a lot, the library, both the library and town hall have a similar design where they've got Goffstown over the arch. We've also tried to emulate that as we've done the historic markers with the HTC using the same maroon coloring that the high school uses and a similar shape. So
That's a good idea.
theme.
try and follow that theme. So I'll get some prices and bring that back. And I guess the next step would be to talk about this with the Board of Selectmen at the next quarterly meeting. And the Board of Selectmen right now is elbow deep in budget season. So I'll bring this back for the November. So hopefully I'll bring all that information back to you so you can hopefully make a recommendation at that quarterly meeting with the Board of Selectmen sometime in November.
Good.
How would this be funded? Would we have to put this into budget process?
The EDC does have a budget annually of $4,000. This year, you spent $2,500 on the self-assessment tool that I'm currently working on, and I requested on your behalf $4,000 for 2014, and that is in the budget that the selectmen are considering now.
We could always use what's left from this year's budget for a contract and then fund the balance of it with next year's money if we elected to do so. Or we could encumber the money either way, once we have a contract signed for this.
And could we do some fundraising or
Say, do a
working
fundraiser,
kind or?
We have some businesses that would contribute to this.
You might, the only stipulation again is just no advertising
Right,
on it,
definitely.
but yeah.
Well,
Full.
you wouldn't have to advertise, it would be bringing people in town, which would help you in the
Right.
long run.
It's for the good of the town.
Right.
Sure. I think there'd be plenty of people that'd be
10
willing to help.
businesses throw up a couple
Everyone
$100
would
each,
want
you can raise some money quick.
Yeah.
Especially if you have the schematic and they see it.
Oh, yeah.
You'd have
They know
Oh, yeah.
exactly what
I
they're.
think it wouldn't be that
buying into.
difficult to fundraise.
I don't think it would be
for
either.
Some local businesses.
Who do we go to to build this? I mean,
I've had a lot of success working with the historic markers with Sousa signs.
Okay.
They also helped with Plan Penardville providing the pylon sign there.
So they must have some templates and costs for us, and how to get us a design that would incorporate what you were talking about, keeping the Goffstown theme going. And
Yeah, I think I could talk to them about keeping the theme of what we already have for signs, and I would ask them. They're the experts on what they would
And they
suggest
are
for materials.
Local
Right.
company.
They're
That's good.
they're in so.
What about the actual sign content colors? Is that going to be this commission's decision, or are we going to, how are you going to make those decisions?
I think I'd like to bring a couple of choices back to you at the next meeting. And yeah, I think that should be you're proposing the sign, you come up with colors and but again, my thought was to follow the maroon that you see at the library, you see at town hall, you see at the high school.
I would agree with that.
And then try
Common theme.
and find a common
Consistent.
And
Yep.
incorporate the town seal into it possibly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which would require HDC sign off, but I don't believe that would be an issue.
Would it be advisable to promote this through the school and maybe have a contest at the school and have some designs drawn by the art students at the school? And I don't know, be a great way to get people involved.
only if we're not going to go with the theme.
No, we would tell them
No, we gotta go with
what
the
our components, what we'd like to see as our components,
Yeah.
and let the kids in art class at the high school maybe
Let them run with it.
have a contest, and maybe we can offer $100 prize to the winner.
Well, I guess
It'll
we
cost
cost.
us a lot less than sending it to a professional
Yeah.
designer,
Absolutely.
especially if you read about, who was it, UNH, that spent all that money on their logo,
Yeah.
and they got a lot of criticism for it. From
I
their
would
own
have-
art department.
Well, I guess my only concern with that is if it's too intricate, that's going to really raise the price. What if we don't like?
Keep it simple.
Yeah, we want to keep it simple.
Right.
It's a
Right, that's
contest.
what I'm saying, yeah.
It would be a contest, Chris, and we would choose or not choose.
Oh well, that was my next point. Is what if we don't choose one of the drawings?
We would,
That they do.
I think we would say that up front. We would elect to
Costs nothing,
accept
right?
or not accept any of the drawings,
Okay.
based on what the commission likes.
It's a free pick, go for it.
I think I would want to go to a professional
You would.
personally for this, just because this is welcome to God. This is, and it's. I don't think there's a lot of variation in town signs.
I have to agree. I think the company that's doing this will have a handful of templates to pick from, and it will be based off of that. And I'd hate to have a contest for the local high school to do drawings and then say, sorry, we don't like any of those, we're going this way.
So we're looking
If you're gonna
at-
put welcome to Goffstown, I could do that. You don't have to pay him, you can pay me to do that.
Just look at your logo, you're right here,
Yeah, I mean, it is that simple.
It's
It's pretty simple.
It is.
Well, I think you're gonna have the logo, you're gonna have welcome to, the
Yeah.
name of the town, it's just font and so on. It's
Go
gonna-
very professional.
The right size and how it's secured.
Let the kids have a try at it. What the
well,
hell's gonna cost you?
I understand Chris's point, that if you're not gonna choose somebody, you could,
Yeah.
you could
somebody's
make somebody, you
They're
could
gonna
hurt
be
somebody's
offended,
feelings.
exactly.
Right. So,
Exactly.
that may
And
be, that may be the
because
wrong avenue to pursue, and I
Just on this particular
agree
thing,
with your
Will always be offended.
evaluation.
because it is going to be so simple, I think the art students are going to come up with something that could be really cool that is just going to be impractical on this sign.
Right, and I think that a sign professional is gonna know that the speed limit is 45 and distance.
They know the
and-
font size, they know all that.
So you'll have a discussion with Sousa Sign?
That was my intention, unless you would want to go a contest route.
No, I think the contest is not a good idea.
Yeah, I think we should stick with
And we're gonna have to
Thomas.
follow, town bidding procedures too, anything over a certain number, you're gonna have to get 3 bids.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's 2,500 or what the number is for the town of Goffstown, but there's a demarcation in funding for any town agency that if you're gonna exceed a certain threshold, you have to get 3 bids, whether it just be verbal or written, depending upon the purchasing policy in Goffstown.
It would be over 25, between 2,500 and 5,000,
Right, so we'd have to get bids on it.
or quotes.
Well, that's how,
Well, I'm just
that's
saying,
the business. I agree, I don't see any issue with that.
and then it's up to the
I
board.
think, let's have a discussion with Sousa Sign and see how they can help us and, they're the local.
I just don't want Tom to feel like, we're handing it to him.
No,
He should understand.
I think he'll understand.
No,
that.
generally, when we talk to contractors, when they're trying to get a budget estimate, we do say that right up front,
Yeah.
that what our purchasing policy
I'm sure he's
is.
accustomed to that.
I was just going to say, if you tell them if we're over X, then we got to put it
Then
out to bid.
it'd actually have to go to
come
Now,
in.
in fairness, the Board of Selectmen can accept or reject any bid that they deemed in the best interest of the town.
Mhm.
So there's wiggle room in all of them.
And maybe it's not all done with town money. Maybe some of this money gets
I
raised
think that's the best way to
personally.
go at it. Then you're not so bound, you're not handcuffed so much.
Right,
Right.
I think that's,
I think if you go after a fundraising deal, I don't see why you wouldn't raise
no, that'll be easy.
$5,000 is,
I don't
No.
think that'll be difficult for the
No,
local
I don't think it
businesses.
would be.
But without the advertisement, Alan, I don't know that people are gonna wanna donate if they're not gonna get recognition.
I don't think you gotta worry about the advertisement, I think because the
Find
people
out.
that come to town, you're gonna receive something somehow anyway, one way or another.
Find out.
You might be surprised.
Yeah,
It's not always about what you're gonna get in return, it's how you get it sooner or later.
Right.
Maybe a vehicle that can create unity in the town too,
That's right.
which we need.
Well, I think it's a good idea, and I'm glad that the DOT's allowing us to do it. So I thought that was a deal killer, trying to put it in the right of way.
Nope, they basically, they do have some requirements, and it would be the town's responsibility.
Yep.
But they seem willing to work with us on it.
Would this go on the town's insurance policy, do you think, Derek, in the event of vandalism or damage, it would be insured as an asset to the town?
I can ask the finance department that, and I think it's going to depend on the value of, and how much a sign costs. And that's going to be the driving factor of whether or not it gets insured as an asset or not.
Be nice.
Put a cheap game camera right on it, you see who stole it, pick 'em up.
You gotta worry about who runs it over.
Depending upon its position in the right of way, it is a target for motor vehicle accidents.
Exactly.
Always.
you definitely could strap a game camera to the tree right next to it for another $100.
There's no trees down there.
Further discussion?
All right, so I will have some choices for you to make at the November meeting then.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is just kind of a project update and discussion. Certified sites regulations. Planning board's agenda were pretty full in September. On the 12th, they had the public hearing on the Pinardville Community Plan, and then they had quite a few applications on the last one. I'm going to shoot to go before the planning board to present the regulations and the concept again to them on the 24th. Not next week, but on October 24th. I've talked to Tim about that and be working with him and what I'm thinking for a presentation. At that same meeting, I'd like to present the concept of rezoning Pondview Industrial Park. Kind of two birds, one stone. Kind of talk to them about that. And I think at our last meeting, we had talked about zoning it either commercial industrial flex or straight commercial. And I think the sense of the EDC was to do the commercial industrial flex.
And I did speak with the owner.
Okay.
And he's in favor of commercial industrial flex.
Okay.
So I think that's a good idea. We kill two birds with one stone.
Then I guess I just asked for a recommendation from the EDC to take to the planning board, and I can provide them with a list of comparables of what the change would encompass, what that change from industrial to commercial industrial flex would mean, and prepare all that. But I'd like to say this board or this group voted on that to make that recommendation to the planning board.
So we're looking for a motion to
Recommend that.
amend the change in zoning.
Yes, to the planning board.
Make a motion that we recommend to the Goffstown Planning Board a change of zone from industrial to commercial flex at the property at the end of Back Road. I don't know the
Do you have a
map and lot
Pondview?
number. Pondview?
Do you have a map and lot there?
I do. It's map 6, and there are 6 lots. The first one is 1-2, then 1-3, 1-4, 1-6, 1-6-1, and 1-6-2.
I'll amend my motion to include those lot numbers, map and lot numbers.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, so I'll take that to them again on the 24th. I'll need to talk with the planner, but he seemed that we would be able to. He would be able to accommodate us on that evening. Next item is the website. I know at the last meeting, Brian Fournier had asked about the available property listings, and I have also been working on keeping the business directory up to date, but also updating it. Currently there's 68 different business categories, and some of them are a little confusing as you go on to try and find, if you want to find a yoga studio, what is that under? And I've tried to find out some breakouts, and I guess the sad reality is the functioning of that, the way this software for our website works is it has different modules, and this is a business directory module. It doesn't work very well. I've talked to the IT department about getting a new business directory and transferring everything over to the new one, and we're looking at needing to upgrade the entire website to the next version. It's version 1.5. It's not a huge cost. It's right now it's a staff time issue because we have finance software and police dispatch software. So once that time gets freed up a little bit, hopefully in December and January, we'll be able to transfer over to the next one and do a new directory. And then also, a lot of the business directories that I found out there have available property listings that come with it. The other option is Londonderry actually embeds the commercial listing right in their website, and they have basically a contract with the commercial realtor that that just puts that information. They don't have to do anything with it. It's just like an embedded website right in there. So that might be another option.
So somebody handles that for them, a local real estate company?
They have a contract. It's
Cyborg or something like that?
It's not, but it's the same software that New England
Nearin?
Yeah,
Northern New England Real Estate Network.
not that one, but New England Commercial
Okay.
uses. It's Catalyst is the name of it, and you basically purchase the software and the rights to have that on your website. So I'm waiting for a quote from them on what that would cost. If it's too much, then it'd probably just be easier to use whatever comes with the business directory update and just maintain it.
So are you saying that the business directory categories you're trying to reduce the amount of them? Is that what you're trying to do, consolidate them?
Consolidate. Right now, you've got vehicle repairs. You might have auto body repairs. You might have vehicle rentals.
So you can say vehicle or something to that nature?
Yeah. And some of them have that ability where you can drop down. You can look at vehicles and it'll give you those different choices. It organizes them better.
Sounds logical.
Now, what is the purpose of this, Derek, so that people can find out what's available in Goffstown?
Yep.
For services, or
Yes.
what's available to buy a piece of land to
I
create
think
something?
you're talking about
It's
two different things.
Two different things, but I guess the central issue is right now is just staff resources to do that with the website, which should free up in December and January once the police go live and we go live with financials.
Is one goal more important than the other? Is providing properties available for people to come in to build on to broaden our tax base more of a priority than telling where someone can get their oil changed in Goffstown? I was thinking more on the lines that we would be marketing sites on our website more than we'd be advertising for having places for
But
business.
did you say it's one and the same in this new software? They'll both of those?
It could be, yeah. Or we could move forward with just the available property listing and just moving forward with that.
I think that's probably a higher priority. I would agree with Tim.
Yes.
If that's a higher priority.
If we had to choose.
I mean, I don't want to knock the businesses in town, but if our goal as a commission is to try to promote business
Right,
in
we're
Goffstown,
not wiping out that list. We're just leaving it
providing.
alone.
I mean, this is what the whole certified sites plan is all about. Program is all about.
Just prioritizing what you want to do first.
Yeah.
I agree with Tim. I think that's the right thing to do.
Be less work for you. I mean, we can move forward with other website, applications later on, but I think in the short term, we should be looking at trying to get people to come to Goffstown, establish their businesses, and
Then you can always have the people come to find the business once it's here.
And
We get a
we
bunch
do
of
have
signs.
that ability. He's just trying to neaten it up a little.
Yeah.
So it's not that we're.
well, I don't want to go against what Brian was asking for. Brian may have been asking for something totally different, and I'm not knocking that. I just was.
No, what we've had is I, on my own, developed an available property listing. Use it. It's a little clunky, to be perfectly honest with you.
But it works, so.
But it does work, and it takes time to stay on top of it. We can deploy that while we're waiting for the website update. We can definitely do that. I was looking for something a little sexier, but we don't necessarily
Obviously,
need
you're
to do
always
that.
looking for a short way to get to it because people's attention span is limited, and when anything's clunky, right?
Yeah.
They lose interest quickly.
Yeah, and I think the draw of some of the other ones is they were a little bit more automated. Whereas the available property listing, it's gonna just become part of the weekly routine of, okay, check it, make sure nothing's changed, update it. So it does take a little bit more staff time to program and that kind of thing on a weekly basis. But if that's a high priority of the EDC, then yeah, we could definitely deploy that.
I'm in favor of that. Tim? Just you guys?
Makes sense.
Definitely.
Okay.
The EdSat, I have completed one of the 10 modules and continue to work on that, and be sending that to Charlie and Andy shortly to review the answers, and then hopefully in the coming weeks we'll get that more completed so we can schedule a public meeting where we can get some of the businesses in to do that. So I have fallen a little bit behind on that one, but I am still working on that. And then finally, Andy, it's not on the agenda, but Andy did ask that I just bring up Plan Pinardville just for kind of an update on that. As I said earlier, the planning board had a public hearing on that on September 12th and voted to not adopt the plan. And we have received communication from New Hampshire Housing, who's the grantor, that we've basically completed all of the town has completed all of its responsibilities relative to the grant. So that grant program is pretty much done. We do have the plan, and at some point when the planning board works towards the townwide master plan, or any zoning changes, they can use all that information at their disposal.
Chairman? I'd like to ask Chris, did the planning board, I know you voted not to adopt it as part of the master plan.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, as a board, make any recommendation to use it as a tool, a learning tool, or anything at all, as other stuff has come forward through Southern New Hampshire planning and such?
Yeah, there was some debate about that, but as a whole, the board felt as though it was best just to vote it all down and not have any, because we couldn't separate the pieces of it, to just have it all be voted down. The fear was on one hand, I mean, definitely there was an amazing amount of public
Comment.
not support, vicious,
Opposition.
opposition, that's the word I'm looking for, against it. And there was some wording in there on some of the parts that some members of the board felt as though it could be dangerous to even have it associated with the master plan, because down the road someone could bring up something and say, well, look, the planning board voted this to be a tool, to be acknowledged, something along those lines, and that's why we decided to vote it down as a whole.
Thank you, Chris.
My particular input on it, which I did say in public, was that I thought some of the things in there were good, and hopefully at a later date we can try to move towards picking up some of those pieces and enacting it, some of the pro-business, simplifying, getting rid of some of the red tape, helping to make it a more business-friendly area of town, and try to change some of the zoning to help with that.
So my next question then is for Derek. Is Brian Rose working on a future recommendation, or is he just letting it rest temporarily and going to consult with the board? And
It's my understanding at the Board of Selectmen's meeting Monday night, and Selectman Brown, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the Board of Selectmen reviewed the letter from New Hampshire Housing, basically saying that the town had met all its obligations, would be refunded the grant amount for any funds actually expended.
It wasn't the full $50,000. It was some amount that was, I forget what the actual amount was.
Yeah, because there were still items left in our contract with the consultant that had yet to be done, that were going to occur in November, December, that obviously had not been done yet. And it's my understanding that there are some people in the public that would like to see the planning board vote the smart code down. There are some people that are in the public that have expressed a desire that it doesn't, that the smart code doesn't go to the planning board. So you've got two people, two groups of individuals say both. So I think at this point, it's been left to Brian Rose and John Heichel, the chairman of the planning board, to decide what does the planning board want to do? Does the planning board want to take an official vote, or do they not want to take an official vote? Because, again, because it's a smart code, it's a zoning, it doesn't necessarily have that master plan to back it up, so, under state law. So I think it's a document that is a public document, and as the planning board, because the planning board right now in CIP is a request for master plan. So if the planning board undertakes that, they may choose to review some of the items that came out that, or whether or not to incorporate that or not.
If I can follow up to that, it was my understanding that because Plan Pinardville was voted down, there was no smart code. So we have no smart code to even vote on, up or down, that there's just nothing in existence for us to look at to vote on.
There's a lot of public outcry against it, that's for sure. We've had our hands full. Busy.
Any other discussion on that? Andrew, any comments?
And the final item I have is just if anyone's available next Wednesday at the Radisson Hotel from 8 to 4:30. It's tough because it's during the day, but there is a Greater Manchester Economic Development Summit. They do have the ability where you can go just the morning or just the afternoon or just for lunch. If anyone's interested, I can send you that information. Just ask that you talk to me after the meeting because we are members of the town is a member of the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce.
Derek, I'll be out of state during that, but if you go or anyone goes and receives some information from there, I'd like to look at some information, grab an extra packet for me.
Absolutely.
I did get an email from that group. It looked fascinating, but unfortunately, work calls, so I wasn't able to go. But there were some pretty good sessions in there that, if you could go, it looks great. Wish it was later in the day.
Anything else?
That's all that I had.
Tim?
As far as the planning board meeting on the, what was the date of that, Derek?
October 24th.
10/24. I have agreed to work with Derek to try to promote the certified sites regulations at the planning board meeting. But now that there's a second item on the agenda, the zoning change at Pondview, any other members of the EDC that felt like they would lend support to the planning board discussion, I would invite them to be sure they come to the meeting because it's going to be a lot for just two people to express, and any other members that felt strong enough about it to request a zone change, I would request that they try to attend the planning board meeting and help out with Derek and whatever we can put together, because a show of a group is much better than one or two people coming in.
It does help.
It's a solidarity thing. The Economic Development Commission proposes something, and when the members come to express their views to the planning board, they take notice. The agenda that night, do you know when that?
I don't.
Could you check on that for us?
Absolutely, and I'll let everyone know on that.
Because I do know that by the planning board rules, applicants come first. So if there are a bunch of applicants on the agenda that night, we may be late on the agenda.
My original intention was to take it next week, but I had a conflict with that. So,
Well, if you can make a request that they would take us first, it'd be great. We'll be brief.
Yeah.
What time does that meeting start?
it's a 7 o'clock meeting.
And thank you for not doing it next week because I won't be here. I'd like to be at the meeting for this one.
You did say October 24th.
Yes.
And one last thing about the sign. I brought up the subject of planning board requirements for residents and businesses for signs. I do feel that we don't want to be over the top with any sign in terms of size. I think a nice, big, easy-to-read sign looks nice, but I personally don't think it sends a good message to the community if we send regulations to a builder or a business or anybody that you have to put a sign up and meet a requirement, and then the town just goes and does whatever the hell they want. I just don't think
I
that's...
don't think we need to exceed the requirement anyways.
Well, I'm
to
just-
to be a tasteful
I'm just
sign.
saying, in fairness to the general public, I think we should try to adhere to our own sign regulations as much as we can possibly do and get our message across so that we don't appear that we're outside the law. I don't like that
I think that's a good
appearance.
Yeah.
There's lots of places where the government agencies are exempt from regulations, and I disagree with some of those personally, but
Absolutely.
You mean like the
let's
House
not
and the
go down that
Senate?
road.
like
That's a deep
setbacks and
subject.
things like that.
We're drowning in that subject right now.
So if we could be cognizant of what the general public has to do, I think we should try to mirror as best we can.
I agree. I think that's a good idea.
It's going to keep the cost down as well.
You said 60 square feet is the max?
That's off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't think we would
6 by
ever,
10
That's
is,
pretty good size sign.
that's a
60
big
square
sign.
feet.
we'll have to
Should be all
exceed
set.
that by any means.
Well, if that's the regulation, then we're in good shape.
Yeah.
And I
We
will.
need to go that big.
Yeah, I'll get all that information before I talk to Tom.
I mean, even if it's 32 feet, it wouldn't be that big.
Oh.
Yeah.
It'll be smaller than that, I
No.
would think.
I mean, that Bedford sign is probably 6 by 10 there that those guys are
You
standing
might
next
be
to.
looking at something like that.
Yeah, that's
chalk
kind of a
over there,
directory
you know.
sign too, though, right? I know what that sign is.
The
That's
bottom half of the panel, yeah.
Yeah, like a 4x8 or something.
I mean, the
probably.
Keene sign certainly isn't.
right. I think that's something more. Keeping
We
with
also
what I
want
was
to select a color that's going to stand out, and you
Well,
can
I-
see it clearly.
I think the burgundy idea.
I kind of like the burgundy, but I think the burgundy's kind of dark
Well, it
myself.
depends on what the background is, you know, you have a background,
the
layout,
contrasting
contrasting color, you know.
color.
You
I
take
think
print.
the company that's going to do this, I'd like to see a couple options. I'd like to see one with burgundy and then a couple other options. And like you said, the background, you know, the highlight area, the trim.
I think that, someone like Tom Sousa, that's what they do for a living. They understand the need.
100%.
Oh, yeah, you take like Universal Sign Works in Manchester, those guys are clever, you take,
Right.
give them something and say, look, here's what we're gonna try.
But if you,
And one thing that would help them is if they had a picture of where it's going to know what the backdrop would look like.
I kind of like the Keene sign just to discuss a sign because you've got blue and green, you've got water and woods. I mean, that's as natural as you get. And that steps right out, and you can see that.
Right.
So we should take, make sure we have a discussion about our colors in the
Yeah.
end.
Well, nowadays with computers, they can generate something for you to look at pretty easily, here you go.
Yeah.
Once
Check
they get
that
the template down, it's very
Right.
easy to give you options.
Right.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
A second.
Make motion?
We adjourn.
Great.